And the surgery it was fine. It was, oh man. When I got in there, they could tell I was super nervous. They're like, oh my gosh, hey, what's going on? Sit down. And I was vibrating. I was like, are you good? I'm like, no, I don't want to go under. Sister Reaper was like, what's wrong with you? It's fun going to sleep. Same with Grandma Reap. They're like, what's wrong with you? There's nothing wrong with taking a little nap. They put you right to sleep. I'm like, what if I don't wake up? They're like, that won't happen. And then I grabbed like the disclosure form that you have to sign before they, do the whole thing, the whole procedure. And it says, there is a chance of death when we put you under. And I screamed because there's nobody more afraid of death than death herself. So I was panicking, to say the least. I was like, oh, you want me to sign on this line? We're doing this in 30 minutes? Okay, yeah, sure. Should be fine, should be great. I signed it, and then I immediately started vibrating as I sat in the waiting room, and they made me wait for like a long time. And then as soon as the anesthesiologist comes in, I scream, I'm like, ah! Can I make the executive decision to back out of this, maybe? I'm sure my knee will heal on its own. It won't, it will not do that. The anesthesiologist was super nice though and was like, all right, clearly you're a little tense. And I said, yeah, maybe a little bit, it should be fine. I just don't want to die. And then the anesthesiologist was like, great, chew on this. And I was like, ooh, what's that? It's gonna make you feel better. I say, okay, yeah, I'll chew on this. Was it candy? Blah! Tasted freaking terrible, like chalk. But I did chill out a little bit. However, it wasn't enough to chill me out when the anesthesiologist said, all right, come on, it's time to go. I was vibrating again. And so the anesthesiologist was so chill and was like, all right, just hold on to my arm. You're gonna be a little woozy from what I just gave you. I was like, all right, I'm afraid. But then the good ending, right? Because as I'm walking, because they didn't wheel me in, they had me like walk to a different room so that I could get into the whatchamacallit, the bed, which is, I guess, not standard procedure. I remember that some of my family members were like, what, they made you walk? I was like, yeah. So I had to walk to the surgery bed. Were you in a gown? Hey. Yes. And I did feel a breeze, but I tried not to think about it. I was preoccupied. So I tried not to think about the breeze that was coming in from behind because, the winds, they do be blowing. But the good news is, I had the tube that was already in my arm, and as we're walking, I don't know, dude is so skilled that he's like, all right, so we're gonna give you something to take off the edge. I'm like, when? He's like, now, and we're walking, and he has like the syringe and is like pushing something into the tube, and I was like, oh, okay, what might that be? And then immediately I knew. I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, I guess we're just gonna take a little seat right here, and immediately stopped feeling scared. That was crazy. I didn't think that was gonna happen. I really didn't think they were gonna like calm me down when I sat on the table. I thought I was gonna have like a full-on conniption while laying on the table, like flopping like a fish out of water. I thought that that's what it was gonna be. But then immediately I was like, whoa, the power of the medicine. I was very thankful for that because I laid down and I was like, oh, okay, well, if I die, I guess that's cool. Which is not a good thing to think. You really shouldn't think that. But I was like, well, if I die, I die. That'll suck. Who am I gonna give all my money to? Maybe Tutu. Did I tell him about Steel Ball Run? I did not tell them about Steel Ball Run, but I did. I'll get there. There is a JoJo part. So I sit down and I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. Reminiscing about, my fun times with my cats. And I'm like, okay, yeah, get Tutu a nice mansion. And then the next thing I know, they put the mask on me and the anesthesiologist is like, it's gonna burn a little bit. And I, such a dummy, so silly. I'd been watching so many shorts and videos on the YouTube. I couldn't go to sleep the night before. I kept watching, going down the rabbit hole of how the anesthesia works. I get into that kind of stuff. I think too much, you guys. I think too much with the crazy, scared, anxiety brainworms and whatnot. And so I already had a bit of knowledge about how this whole thing goes. And I was like, oh, the dumb question. Is that the lidocaine? That's not like the lidocaine. He says, nah, the lidocaine would make it not burn. Weirdly enough, I didn't feel the burn though. And I was like, oh yes, the propofol, that's what it's called. And then the next thing I know, I'm opening my eyes and I'm seeing blood at the end of the table, but everything's done. I was like, oh, but it didn't feel like a time slip. It's hard to explain. I do feel like I went to sleep. No dreams or anything like that, but I did feel that time had passed because like I said, the surgery had to be longer than they anticipated due to a complication that they found, which I won't get into, but that's okay because it all worked out. But yeah, it had to be much longer than I thought. And I was like, oh, maybe that's why it didn't feel necessarily like a blink I still felt like time had passed, but I just didn't recognize that period of time as being conscious. It wasn't black or anything though, I just don't really remember. But I know that waking up was again, yeah, like in the moment I was pretty lucid, but thinking back on it now, the memories from that time are very foggy. So I don't remember what people said to me, but I know that in the moment I knew what people were saying to me, if that makes any sense. It's just a hole in your memory? Yeah, it felt something like that. But at the time I felt pretty clear, just couldn't make memories. It was a bit different than when I was super young though and got my appendix removed, I gotta say. Because during that time I remember, you know, swimming to the surface in the darkness. That didn't happen this time, which was really, I'm glad that didn't happen because that's what I was afraid of. After that, they, you know, wheeled me into a different room and they're like, all right, you're gonna chill here for a little bit. But I could still see them like cleaning up stuff and whatnot. It was kind of a weird hospital, but they had me sit there and wait and just chill. I was just hanging out. I was zoning. I was looking at the ceiling like, whoa, there are holes there. That's nutty. I heard you were extremely emotional. That happened more after, not necessarily after the surgery. That happened more after like a couple days had passed, and like the next like maybe 2 or 3 days is when I started to get really emotional. But afterwards I was just kind of like, whoa. But then something happened. There was a bit of an episode where I don't think everyone wants to hear about this. You might. I'm sure it's fine. If you don't want to hear, but it just might squeak you out. I'm gonna make it as tame as possible. Not the latest. No, stop it. Because I will remember this, I think, for the rest of my life, this whole situation that happened. So I'm chilling there. I'm like, wow, I don't feel so bad, to be honest. I'm ready to, oh, excellent. The saplings are here. Now they get to hear about this. What if this is their first experience meeting Mori, and this is what they hear about the secret thing that they did while I was asleep that I didn't know about that. Anyway, so they did something. I'm chilling. I'm sitting on the bed recovering. I'm like, yay, I'm alive. Let's go. That's more than I thought was going to happen. And at the time, my knee didn't really hurt so much. I was like, yeah, you know, my knee feels all right. But they said to me afterward, you know, the doctor comes up, was like, how you feeling, Mori? I'm like, I'm all right. The doc says, yeah, the surgery had to be about twice as long as we thought it was going to be because of a complication that happened. And they explained it to me and whatnot. And it seemed like, I was like, oh, okay, that's terrifying, but I'm glad everything was okay in the end, and I'm glad I wasn't awake for it. And then the doc says, yeah, you know, everything's good. It was just a longer surgery than we thought it would be. So the nurse is gonna come over and help get you over to the overnight room. And I was like, okay, yeah, sounds good. So the nurse comes over and is like, hey there, Mori, what's going on? I'm like, oh yeah, nothing much, just chilling. And I don't feel anything weird. I don't feel anything strange at all at that time. I'm just hanging out, feeling good about life. And so the nurse says, all right, well, before we take you over to the overnight room, we got to get rid of the secret tube. And I said, what is the secret tube? And the nurse says, well, you know, you were asleep for a longer time than we thought that you were going to be. So we had to insert a little tube. And I go, oh, okay, cool. Where? And then she tells me where it is. And I almost fainted on the spot. I actually audibly screamed. I let out a squeak and my eyes rolled into the back of my head and I literally started hyperventilating on the spot and I almost passed out. because what the fuck? What? I didn't know they were gonna put something like that inside of me! I said, so you took it out, right? While I was sleeping, you took it out. She says, no, we're gonna take it out now. I say, am I gonna feel it? She says, well, it will be uncomfortable. And I tense up. And she says, Mori, if you tense up, it's gonna hurt when I pull it out. And I go, I take a deep breath and I relax and I say, just do it. And she pulled it out and I never want to feel anything like that ever again for the rest of my life. Yeah, that was frightening. So I never want to go through that again. That was probably the worst part, to be honest. Everything else was pretty much fine, but that was horrific. I wouldn't say burn, just very strange feeling, and I wanted to throw up, so there was that. But that's okay. And now imagine being a dude. Do they do that for guys? I mean, I feel like there's an easier way to, I feel like that's, yes, are you? Uh-oh, my phone died. No, the power's gone. Yes, we have a, okay, well, I wasn't, hold on. No, I wasn't implying that you don't have one of those. I'm thinking like, why don't they put like a sock on it or something like that? Like, why do they have to insert? Why? A sock? Well, yeah, like just wrap something around it and like, you know, if it trickles out, then I mean, I don't know. It just seems more painful to put like a secret tube because it's medical. Okay. Probably to avoid infection. Okay, that's actually that makes sense. Stop right there. All right, it's cool. We're done with this conversation. It's fine. It's over. This part of the conversation is over. But what was kind of cool afterward is that I got to chill in the overnight room and I didn't sleep. I did not sleep at all. And so I thought, all right, F it, we ball. We're watching Stone Ocean. And so I turned on Netflix and it was at the point where like I wasn't super hopped up on anything. They weren't still using a ton of the loopy stuff, but I was very much in a state of, you know what, F it, we ball. I just went through a very harrowing experience. I'm gonna watch Stone Ocean at full blast. And it was just me and like one other nurse was kind of watching over me. And I just remember watching it at the almost maximum volume. I turned it all the way up. I was like, yup, we're watching JoJo. The poor nurse, she liked it, actually. She came in and was like, actually, you know, I speak a little Japanese. I was like, oh, cool. I was like, do you know JoJo? She's like, I don't know this one, but I do know anime. And I was like, let me explain JoJo to you. So I explained JoJo to her, and then I explained that I was reading Steel Ball Run, and then it was like a cowboy one. She's like, oh, cool. She's like, that sounds pretty neat. And she watched some of it with me, and she was like, wow, okay. This is crazy. And I was like, do you understand some of the words being said? She's like, I forget most of my Japanese, but every once in a while I understand a word. I'm like, let's go. Kind of based, yeah. It was nice. It was nice to have a friendly face talk with me about anime in that moment, especially JoJo. JoJo instantly makes me feel better about things. I wish we were talking about JoJo when the Secret Tube came out, but, you know, we weren't really on that level of friendship yet. I do recall, though, after I got back, you know, my family had to come pick me up super early from the overnight stay. And it's crazy because they make you pay like $1 gajillion to stay overnight, right? And then they're like, all right, 5 a.m. sharp, you better be there or be square. We're like, wait, really? But why? Why are we paying $1 gajillion for you to have to be there at 5 a.m.? Sounds like the US. It was rough, but why? But why? It was rough. But it is what it is. That's okay. That's fine. That's just how the US healthcare, yeah, it do be like that. 5 a.m. is too early. It was fine for me though, because like I said, I wasn't sleeping or anything like that, so it was okay. You know, it was annoying for my family to have to come grab me that early in the morning. Goodness, I felt really bad they had to wake up so early, but eventually, you know, they took me back home, and I got to chill. And I will say, the first shower was rough. It was a hard time because I'm like, wow, if I slip, I'm gonna die. And then I had, you know, the scar and whatnot that has to heal, and all the dressing on the wound and stuff like that. And it's just, why am I ducking? Because I'm shy. It was rough. And I cried a lot. There was a lot of crying during the first shower. And I can't really take a bath for a while either, just because of the scar situation, and the doc doesn't want me, you know, soaking and stinky. No, I wanted to shower immediately. They said, you have to wait a little bit longer. I was like, okay. And then shower once every 24 hours. No stinky. I wash very thoroughly. But yeah, I cried a lot. And, you know, my family had to be there to be like, it's okay, Mori, it's gonna get better. I was like, my knee's never gonna heal. I'm never gonna walk again. I'm never gonna dance again. They're like, I'm never gonna dance again. Pain drugs mess up your emotions a lot. Yeah, that was the first couple days though, because actually, interestingly enough, my particular like practitioner of the surgery, the doctor, my doctor, we're making everything so much more complicated than it needs to be. My doctor is actually a doctor that is very against prescribing pain meds that might possibly be addictive to the patients. So everybody else that gets like that kind of quote unquote good stuff and what, not me. Ibuprofen, 600 milligrams. That's it. That's it. Which in hindsight, I'm glad. I'm glad that that's what was decided upon, because I don't think I could handle the other I don't think I could handle the other stuff, being in that kind of, you know, vulnerable state and whatnot. So it's fine. I mean, it did take care of the pain a lot in the beginning, but of course your body kind of gets used to the pain meds. So at a certain point, it kind of stopped working so much where I kind of felt like, do I need to take this? Because then I have to eat a whole meal. I don't want to eat a whole meal and then take this. But, you know, I forced myself to, and the antibiotics and everything, I did everything as I was asked to and prescribed to do. But yeah, so I'm glad in hindsight that it was, you know, straight up just painkillers. They lost potency that quick. You know, I have been told in other situations where I've had to, you know, have like, you know, various medications for sicknesses that I've had in the past, the doctors always say to me, you know, Mori, you're really difficult to poison. I'm like, what does that mean? And basically, I've just been told that when it comes to medication, my body just gets used to them really quickly, and I guess quote unquote fends them off. I'm hard to kill. It makes sense though, doesn't it? Oh, and not to mention the fact that I couldn't really be super mobile meant that I was at high risk of blood clots. So basically what I had to do is I had to take a blood thinner. But the blood thinner that they prescribed to me it's not an oral medication. It's not, you know, a liquid. It's not a pill. You guys know where I'm going with this. It's an injection. Is not fun for me because I don't want to do that. I don't want to stick myself with the needle. I'm like, that's not something that I can. Oh, thank God. What did you guys think? Where did you guys think I was going with that? Not where I thought that was going. All right, well, we'll just zip right along past that. Sounds a bit painful. What we were supposed to do is, you know, pinch an inch is what they say. So you pinch an inch of like your thigh, your tum-tum, or your arm. My tummy is really sensitive. I don't like anyone touching it, especially, yeah, doctors or anyone, just get away from my tummy. And then when it comes to my arm, I don't know, it just felt weird to me. So I was like, okay, thigh sounds good. And so I can't do that to myself. I'm just unable to hurt myself like that, right? My body, it won't allow me to do that. But thankfully, my Grandma Reaper came to visit me to make sure that I was okay. And Mama Mori was there as well. Mama Mori says, hey, here's the good news. Grandma Reaper used to be a nurse a long time ago. I'm like, oh, that's great. So Grandma Reaper sits down to, you know, help me out with these shots and whatnot. And she's like, oh, let me get my glasses. And my stomach drops. I'm like, this isn't gonna go well. And then I realized something. I realized that Grandma Reaper was indeed a nurse. She hasn't been a nurse for 50 years. So you can guess how painful that was. Even looking at my thighs now, I still have bruises. It doesn't have to go into a vein. That is true. But you know, she grabs the syringe and then immediately goes to my thigh. I'm like, Grandma, pinch an inch. She's like, what? I'm like, you're supposed to pinch. You gotta pinch an inch. And she's like, I'm not looking for the vein. And I go, oh my God. No, Grandma Reap, here, let me help you with the horror. So was she trembling? No, actually, her hands were very steady. But it did not feel good because I think that she was just kind of picking locations that were like very much straight up just like hard muscle and not necessarily like the kind of like fattier parts. This was 50-year-old medical standards from 50 years ago. But yeah, so on each of my thighs, I count them, I have 4 bruises on each one. They're big. They're not infected. There's nothing wrong with them. But I look at them like, wow, okay, 4 brown spots. Wow, kind of cute. They're like birthmarks. I didn't have the heart to be like Grandma, I'll just do it myself. But it is what it is. It is what it is. And when I went in for the checkup afterward, I didn't show any of that to, you know, the doc or anything like that, because they were pretty strict, to be honest. The particular doctors that I went to were like, all right, you got to do things exactly this way and whatnot. And I didn't want them being mean to my grandma or anything like that. 0% accuracy. Heart in the right place, needle not so much, precisely. So I just kept it to myself. It was my little secret that, you know, Grandma Reap, she meant well, she wanted to help. But it is what it is. But basically the first week was really rough, and I hear that the first week is always the roughest when it comes to these kinds of things, because I still have to find a way to like stay generally active to prevent blood clots, but at the same time I'm using crutches, so I'm trying to move around and it's not feeling good.